be happy. You look back into the perspective and you're like, well, that's not true anymore. I'm in bliss right now.
Definitely born into a metaphysical household.
Becoming more aware and expanded to the natural mechanics of consciousness that is the creation itself.
It's crazy. Well, me and Ansley were thinking about doing it on just negative beliefs, right?
Like a black box.
And
Well, just like how to kind of just the impact that beliefs make in your daily life and then your yearly life, and then just how to kind of get rid of beliefs that aren't yours, that you carry around, and like why are we carrying these beliefs around? Where do they come from? Whose are these beliefs? How do we put them down? How do we get rid of this baggage, and what happens when we do? And just just all the things that kind of go around belief, like fear and anger and delusion and denial.
Yeah, Trent, why don't you explain to us like what you know about negative beliefs? What are they, and yada.
Okay. Think for a second. In turn, is like the perception of our reality is like our feelings, and that's influenced by our thoughts. But then they're reinforced by our beliefs. So the feelings we feel are the result of our beliefs, and it's our emotional reactions are the result of what we believe. So our emotional reactions in turn are a part of our experience. So without trying to be too confusing for our listeners or anything, to try to keep in the idea, to stay positive and keep like a high vibration, right? We'll be encountering maybe it could be obstacles or doubt or self-doubt or some type of pain or something, and that is a clear indication of a belief that we have. And a lot of times we have beliefs about ourselves, right? And we project those on other people, other circumstances, other things, whether it's politics or religion or basically any external force. We project our beliefs about ourselves onto those external things, and that in turn is what we experience as our physical reality. So what we believe is ultimately what we believe to be true, like, is real and is true because that's the experience we have of it. But when we change our beliefs about any particular reality or issue, we instantly also change how we feel. So by getting in touch with our beliefs is how we change how we feel, right? And in turn, that will change the experience that we're having in physical reality. So right now, personally, I'm coming to terms with, I feel like I'm pretty positive and I have a really good understanding on beliefs or anything, but I have these beliefs of lack, right? Because I'm fearful and I have like these like finances. I'm like drowning because I'm like broke, and I'm like, I haven't experienced this in a while because usually I have sources of income from all different types of directions. Like there's tons and tons of income from all types of sources, right? But I have a lot of outgo, and every once in a while, stuff happens that we don't necessarily prefer. Like my vehicle broke down, right? I got sick for a little bit a week or two ago, so I didn't work a bunch. So then I had to start putting some of the things I needed to buy on like a credit card. So now it's like, I'm looking at my banking statements and I'm like, wow, I don't have any money, and that's like a negative belief. But like to like deny the idea that, you know, we are completely abundant and we have all that we have everything we really truly need, right? So I'm in a stage now personally where I need to really focus on either having faith or being in fear. And the faith part, which is in total alignment with, you know, my core beliefs, or so I thought, you know, that telling myself, hey, you know, everything's going to work out, right? And even though the things that are happening right now in my life I don't prefer, and they might seem like they're painful, they're for a reason. And they're bringing me closer to what I truly want. And if they're not, you know, doing that at the moment, what those things that I don't prefer are doing are letting me know what I believe. So I'm like having sort of like a weird little like breakthrough, you know, because when I'm witnessing myself being stressed, right? I come to the understanding, well, it's because I believe something. And it's funny because I feel like I've gotten over some types of beliefs, and I feel like I've gotten past, and I was able to understand they don't make any sense, and that ultimately is, you know, how we let them go. That's what the B says, right? When a belief doesn't make any sense, that is when we stop believing it, you know, because beliefs are just things that we're just buying into, but we don't have to, right? So it's really like I'm in a really interesting, neat stage, you know, at this particular moment, and I completely understand like maybe I'm being like from like a Christian point of view, we have like the belief that, you know, sometimes we're tested, like our faith is tested, and I kind of believe that. I choose to like say it a different way. Where one of the reasons I believe that we incarnate here on Earth. I know this is another thing that we discussed before, but I truly believe that, among other things, you know, the belief that you know, we incarnate here on Earth just to have the experience to grow. I also believe that one of the main parts of our existence here, for, you know, 99.9% of us, is to transmute negativity into positivity. And what I mean by that is to, you know, maintain the vibration that's in alignment with ourselves. So those are my
Yeah.
thoughts.
Yeah, no, that's good. I think the main thing to take away from all that is that feelings don't exist in a vacuum. So, you know, regardless of the manifestation, because your feelings, um, your definition of the situation is what will cause like a negative reaction of the situation. So
Right.
even if you seem to be manifesting something negatively, know that that's just still some of the echoes of the negative beliefs, some of the residual things, and just keep with the positive feelings. Keep with knowing that whatever happens is still the path of least resistance, even if it doesn't seem to be going in that direction. Just still keep forward, like, you know, like everything is perfect, because it is perfect.
Well, yeah. One of the things that I keep thinking of today and a little bit yesterday is a story that Bashar actually told about something that happened to one of Daryl's friends. The story of the car radio. I don't know if you're familiar with this story. Are you?
Yeah, I've heard it.
No.
Okay. So what happened was one of Daryl's friends bought this car, okay, and he wanted to put a stereo system in his car. He was a music lover. He loved listening to music, and he liked playing instruments, and music was a big part of his life, right? And there was a relatively expensive type of system he wanted to put into his car with the speakers and the deck and everything. But he couldn't quite afford that one, right? So, you know, acting on his passion, he really wanted to have like a, you know, a sweet setup in his car. He was able to buy the one that he could afford. It wasn't the one he truly wanted. It was the next best thing, you know, acting on our passion to the best of our ability, right? So he bought the next best one, and he was excited about it. It's good, but a day later, he had his car parked on the side of the road outside of the house, and someone broke into the car. Someone smashed the windows out and stole the deck and like ripped the speakers out of the room, stole it all. And you know, at that moment, you know, if that were to happen to us, like if we put ourselves in that situation, it's just like, oh, you know, woe is me. How could this happen to me? And it really sucks. You know, I spent all the money I had on this, totally taken from me, right? But this guy knew to keep a positive vibration and understand that when things happen that we don't prefer, we look at them from different perspectives, and sometimes it'll bring us closer to what we really do prefer, and we don't even realize it. So he made a claim, an insurance claim with the insurance company about the break-in and the damage that was done to the vehicle, and he got reimbursed for it, right, for the damage. And it just happened to be that the amount he was reimbursed from the insurance company was the exact amount of the deck and the speakers for the system he wanted in the first place, the expensive one he couldn't get. So it's like
Wow.
things really worked out by keeping that positive, vibration. And when we
Yep.
talk about stuff like that, we think about alternate realities and how vibration dictates where we're headed and what reality we experience, right? So if he were to be all mopey and be like, oh, this really sucks, I got ripped off, blah, 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 something could have happened, and they could have, reimbursed him a lot less, or they wouldn't have fixed it, or it could have been a bad scenario. So he's a true believer that by keeping a positive vibration will shift him into a reality that he prefers, a positive outcome. So that's kind of something that I'm really going through right now. Again, I'll be a little more personal and happening. This past week, kind of like up and down. I was driving my vehicle to go pick up my son, and it broke down like right in the street. I was kind of embarrassed, like I'm just driving along, and then all of a sudden I can't drive, and I have to like pull over, put the hazards on, and like pull up on the side of the road, and these cars are trying to get past me. I'm on like a narrow road, and I'm like, all right, I got to just get this taken care of. So I call the tow truck, and I'm like trying to stay positive, and I call the tow truck, and I'm on my way to pick up my son. So I call his mom, and I ask if she can bring him to the shop where I'm going to have my vehicle towed, and I'll figure out a way for him. And that seems to work out. And then I call someone else, call my older brother, for a ride. And he picks up, and he's able to give me a ride. So things are kind of working out, right? Even though I'm in a strange position, I'm just trying to stay positive, right? I get a ride from the tow truck who gets there a little bit later. And this guy in the tow truck, he, for some reason, is going through some serious stuff in his life. He's got these troubles with like his job and these like struggles with finances and how he's not getting paid enough and he's getting mistreated at work. And then he's telling me all these personal stories of like something that was happening between the bank and his home and like all these things. And I started to, ask him questions, right? I wasn't telling him anything. I was asking him questions to try to get him to look at these situations in different perspectives. As a life coach, this is one of the things that I've learned to do. We don't really tell other people what to think, what to believe, or we sort of just influence them to ask themselves these questions so they can come to the conclusions themselves, right? So I'm asking him these questions, and to make a long story short, I'm talking to this guy for a while, and he kept asking me questions, and I got real metaphysical. I mean, I was telling him some like serious, like next level stuff, just like we discussed here on the show. And when we were done, I was like, wow, that poor guy, he's just like so negative. He's really got to stop focusing on the negative, because every time I would say something positive, he would interject with a negative response. And then when that segment of the conversation would end, he would pick up somewhere next, like the horrific offenses with politics, right? Or he would talk about the horrific laws that have been passed recently with abortion, and like things that I'm not following. Like I'm not keeping track of these particular things. And then he's talking about a relative of his with cancer, and he's talking about all these ailments and all this stuff. And when that conversation was done and I left, I was thinking, that poor guy is so negative. If only he was able to focus on the positive like I do, like me, I'm going to focus on the positive. So needless to say, the next day I got my vehicle fixed. I got the phone call that was fixed, and it was a lot of money. But I just put it on a credit card, and I was like, you know what, like it is what it is. I'm going to stay positive. I got it fixed. That's, it is what it is, right? Trying to just stay positive and understand that it had to be fixed, and I'm grateful that it wasn't a disaster. I wasn't going very fast. Nobody got hurt. There wasn't a big catastrophe. The one thing I'm stressed out about is finances, and I'm telling myself I'm so far beyond that. I'm so far beyond finances. I understand completely that just a little bit of money is not a huge, it's not a huge setback, and it's just a small part of my, life. In a few weeks from now, I'll look back on this and not even feel anything. You know, just like when I was younger in high school, there were big things that I thought were paramount of importance, which are absolutely not important at all. So anyway, later on that day, I'm speaking with my brother, and he's telling me all these negative stories about politics, and he's been actually diagnosed with cancer. And he came, truth, he told me this. He was really afraid because he has a type of skin cancer. And I didn't know this, so it was kind of like shocking. But my idea is, I'm extremely positive, and I'm thinking in my mind, like, well, there's ways to, combat ailments like that. And I personally, truly believe that really what it boils down to, for the most part, is what we put into our bodies. And I started, asking him questions, and I came to understand that he doesn't take care of himself. He doesn't eat like well at all, if he eats. Right. And there's a lot of things involved with like his stress levels and the things that he eats and everything like that. So, and he, again, is very, very, very negative, always focusing on the negative stuff. And I'm trying to sort of help him out and see things from a different perspective. Right. So now back to me, while this is happening, I'm trying to help others to see things from a positive light, because I'm really talking to myself, when I'm talking to these people. So they're really helping me, like, I feel like, with coming to me with all this like negative stuff, because when I talk to people and say these things, I'm listening to what I say as well. Right. So I got some information that like I'm really having a hard time doing my taxes. I submitted all my tax work, but a lot of the money that I earn is off the books, right? And they want me to have like a complete like set of like written out income to support the what do you call it? The expenses that I have written down. And I'm like, damn, like, how am I going to put all this together? Like, how's this going to influence my, my refund? Is this going to be like, how am I going to deal with this? And I'm, once again, I'm stressed out about it, and I have to really be positive. Right. So I'm dealing with that. And then tonight, I'm still thinking of all this stuff, and I'm trying to be positive, even though I'm stressed out. I'm sliding back and forth. I go into my Jeep to go take a ride earlier tonight, and then the Jeep won't start. I'm like, oh my God, I just spent all this money on this thing to get it fixed, and I just brought it home yesterday, and now it's in my driveway, and I go to start it up and it's dead. I'm like, I just can't win. I'm so stressed. And I started thinking, unlike that guy with the radio, okay, I started thinking, these, poor me, like, why does this always happen to me, blah, blah, blah. And I have to really look at the way that I'm thinking and make the adjustment and come to the complete understanding that what it really boils down to is what I said before. It's either fear or faith. And I'm really just putting into motion and practicing what I preach to try to just be, positive and understand that whatever little thing that is happening in my life or happening in our lives. And if anybody listening, hears this, like, more, I think a huge takeaway is that sometimes we, have these feelings and emotions for things that are stressing us out, but deep down, we truly know that they're not really big deals. They just seem like it at the moment. Because next year, this week of these little stressful encounters and a couple $1,000s is meaningless. What it really boils down to is what we believe and how we respond. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, I was thinking.
Yeah, absolutely. We're just
Fear.
muted for recording quality.
I know Bashar says this, that doubt is actually 100% trust and something you don't prefer.
Right.
So there's really, I don't know, that's how he talks about like having faith or
yes,
having hope.
Right. So I guess it's a matter of like what we're putting our trust in, right? So again, it's really me, like, practicing this, and not just preaching it, because I constantly I'm talking to people about stuff like this, and I'm, now that I'm dealing with things that are stressing me out. I guess I'm going to interpret this in a way where I'm grateful. I'm grateful I'm able to put this into action. I'm grateful I'm given the chance now to really transmute these beliefs. I'm able to uncover more about myself, about what I truly believe, about my experience here and my standing. I guess, I'm feeling pretty good in this moment, even though You know?
I have a manifestation story. I
Yes.
might be willing to share.
Yes.
I started practicing this stuff really hardcore. It was around the time that the black box came out, like a little bit after that, when I had seen it, and I started obsessing over all this, really putting the formula into practice. And I mean, less putting the formula into, well, yeah, a little bit of that, but mainly just keeping that positive, staying in the vortex, you know what I mean? Trying to keep positive feelings no matter the chaos that was around me. And some of it, yeah, might have been a little bit of suppression or whatever that I later had to deal with. But at this moment, I needed money so that I could survive, because I had run all my resources dry and was kind of stranded in England. And so I reached out and actually just set it on a post on my wall. Anyways, I remember I had just said to my mom was really arguing with me about all this. She's like, it's a bunch of bullshit. Power of manifestation. She's like, I tell you what. I told her, I was like, I'm going to manifest a check. She's like, I'll tell you what. If you manifest a check, I'll start believing in all this. Anyways, so I had asked about the money, the $900 for the ticket. I don't know why it was so outrageous. So, but yeah. And I actually got the money within like just a few days, just from random donations of like $50 to $100, kind of. You know what I mean? With just friends. Anyways, after I was already back in America, one of my friends who doesn't come on Facebook that often, he's not really so much a friend, but more like just like, I think back then he was following my blogs or something. But anyways, he went back and looked at my wall and saw that post from just a while ago. And he was like, Cheryl, I didn't know that you didn't have any money. Like, here, I want to send you some money. And he just transfers $14,000 into my PayPal without like no questions asked. And I was just like, why did you do that?
Wow.
And he was like, I don't know. For some reason, I feel like maybe I owe you from a past life or whatever like that. And he said that I had like been his inspiration to get into Bashar, and Bashar really changed his life and everything like that. So I was just like, damn. Anyways, I really needed that like, to be able to do the things that I did thereafter and get where I am now. But
That's incredible.
yeah, and I had really, really
That's
been focusing
crazy.
so
That's really big manifestation.
yeah, I thought that, raising the $900 was a big deal. And there was even another little mini manifestation of $700 that came from like just complete accident. Like a fee for my inconveniences about something. So anyways, it was wild. At that moment, my focus was really positive and my manifestation was really positive. But the one thing is that I really needed it. And I needed to be taken care of at that moment to be able to go through some of the healing type stuff that I went through right directly after that. So I really feel like it was heaven, or you know what I mean? Like God sent. Yeah.
But did you feel like any like doubt or anything, or you basically like
No,
knew?
I had no doubt. Absolutely no doubt. Not even a
You were like,
tinge.
yeah, that's so neat. Have you experienced anything like that, Ansley?
Oh yeah. I mean, not like $14,000, but I mean, it's, I gotta say that I'm really starting to get the hang of this thing. And I'll go through periods where I'll get really mesmerized. And then I don't know, but like the I'm sort of in a position now where my rent has never been higher. It's very high. My bills are very high. I'm in LA. I have a house, pool. Like, it's like I have a lot of responsibility. I have dogs, kids, young children.
Yeah.
And like, I've never had, like, I've always in the past, up until a certain year, like I always had like structured jobs and career paths and everything like that. And it's not like that anymore. I'm literally like so exposed. But it's about faith, but it's also about understanding. And it's like sometimes faith can feel a little blinding. Like, okay, this is just blind faith. And it works, but it's like, I feel like the next level after faith is understanding. And I mean, I've never not made the rent. Like, it's been 2.5 years at this rent. And so I have, it just seems to be my experience that the rent will always get paid. And we don't have savings. Like, that's something that I was thinking about when you were sharing, Trent, is like, when I definitely want to get to a point where I'm manifesting having like cushions and savings, like big time, especially like that's kind of my goal. And I used to have that in the past, but it's like I don't seem to have that anymore. And
well, one of the tricks is being able to, I don't know, like the crazy thing is whenever I had all that confidence, I really didn't know how I was going to pay for anything. And at any moment I could have lost everything because I had no cushion. I was completely drained of.
Wow. So you think that's kind of how this stuff works, is like, that's why I have really no cushion, is because I have to like, you have to be pushed to the edge, huh?
Just because you don't have the cushion, see, you're looking at that as something that's making you not abundant, but that actually has nothing to do with it. Know that you have everything that you need. You just said that you've never been without. So, that's the only need when you need it. But we want to have all this extra so we have the security, because really we don't feel.
Right. Yeah, and I mean, I think that that would be a good goal, and I am moving towards that. But it hasn't been like that for a really long time.
Here's just one little example. Say you do get evicted. You need to know at that moment that it's because of where you needed to go. Sometimes the universe sets something up.
100%.
Well, let's hit her with this. Well, first she's got to get evicted. You see what I mean? You need to see it like that. Every time you say you're getting evicted, get excited.
Absolutely.
I wonder what we're manifesting now. A change, exciting.
Right.
You see what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, that's already almost happened like 2 times, where not even because of late rent or evicted, but just like, okay, like find another place. Like, and I realized in hindsight, I caused the whole thing, because I was at a crossroads. It's like, my manifestations do happen pretty fast, where I might be like, oh, I want to move here, or I want to move there. And then all of a sudden it happens so fast, like faster than I would have liked. And I'm not always ready for it. Sometimes I just kind of stay put and there's still like transfer of energy that goes on, and there's still like major change that goes on, but I don't physically move. But anyway, this month, this is just like last week, where like I wasn't, usually I'll sweat about the rent for like the last like 2 weeks of the month. I'll be like, oh, like trying to rush around. But as the months go by, and as my faith and understanding and ability to demonstrate increases, I get less and less afraid, and less governed by fear, and just knowing that it's going to be there. I don't know how, I don't know when, I don't know why, but it'll be there. And like so I was thinking of, I knew that there was something coming in the mail that would allow me to, like a payment that would allow me to pay the rent. Well, a couple days before, I find out it got sent to the wrong address. It got sent to Rivers, and I live on Riverside. And I was like, oh my God. So now, and then I was like, okay, let me call and go. I'm like you, Trent, like I have multiple sources of revenue. Let me call this other place. And then I got wrapped up with this casting session, and the director asked me to get like donuts and coffee for people. And so I got totally distracted and did not make the necessary call. So then I come out of this casting session and it's the night before the rent's due. And I literally am like, oh my God, like, what are we going to do? And I was starting to, one piece of advice I can give to people is like, you have to be careful who you talk to about this stuff, because you want people who are going to not be like mesmerized by your circumstances and your situation. Like if people like and so the people that I was having dinner with were like, oh, you're going to be like, they were jumping to so many crazy conclusions that even I wasn't jumping to, like, oh, you're going to be homeless and you and your kids can come live with me or your kids can come live with me if they need to. And, just like ridiculous things. I'm like, guys, just tell me I'm going to get the rent paid. Don't like, tell me I'm going to be homeless, please. Like, that's not helpful. Like it's not going to, don't worry about it, And, I said, I gotta go. And I just like left the dinner and I'm driving home and I'm just like, what? And like, I'm finding out like this, this vendor's not going to pay, this person's not going to pay this, and like the evidence is just looking really grim. And I'm like, no, I'm refused to believe in lack. Like Cheryl and I were talking about beliefs today. And I said, well, I'm trying to get out of beliefs. Cheryl's like, that's impossible. It's about having positive beliefs, but you can't exist as a human and not have beliefs. So I was like, you know what? I'll tell you guys one of the things that I try to believe every day. I don't believe in lack. I don't believe in sickness. I don't believe in scarcity. I try not to even believe in like disharmony or hatred or like any kind of unwanted anything. I'm just like, no, I don't accept that. I'm not believing in that. And I noticed that when I really take a stand, and things can change immediately. And I'm telling you, I declared that like a few times, like I live in an abundant universe. I don't believe in lack. Like I'm not going to give into the fear, even though it's like, I'm staring down the barrel of the gun. Like I'm not giving into the fear. And then I get a text that we got like 3 times our rent. I was like, oh my God, like this really works. Lack really isn't real. It's not real. It's an illusion.
Mm-hmm.
It's an illusion. False evidence appearing real. Right. And if I can see through the nothingness of this aggressive claim, and your brother has an aggressive claim about this cancer and people are telling him this and that. And it's a good thing that these men were talking to you, Trent, because you are you are the minority who is actually going to encourage them rather than discourage them. So that's very sane and wise of them to talk to you. Thank God. And like, it's like, yeah. So it's just, we have so much like usefulness that we can give like in this planet, to not agree with people's fears and people's problems, but to actually like encourage them to see through, hey, this is an illusion. If you choose to make this an illusion, this can go away. This can go away fast. But if you want to beat this drum and you want to believe in this unwanted reality, and you want to like look at the evidence as evidence for why you should believe you're sick, or why you should believe you have cancer, why you should believe you have, I call it financial cancer. Like when you don't have enough money, it's like, it's a disease. Lack is a disease too. And I've been blessed with pretty good health, but like, it's like, I just, the money stuff, but I have lost all fear of it. But it's like, I'd like to, I mean, there's so much work to do. There's so many levels to this. There's so many, but I am free. So even though sometimes I feel like, ooh, this is stressful, but then I'm like, I'm pretty free. And that is progress from where I was, even though sometimes it feels like I'm not that free because I need more of a team like I used to have. But I do feel that the universe is sending me more team members to execute my vision. So I think, yeah, that's a really important thing in this stuff, is having a vision and knowing where you're going to spend the money or the energy or the health or the love. Like, what are you going to do with it? Like, if you get this health, like if someone gets cured of cancer, what are they going to do with their health? Are they going to go start bicycling? Are they going to start traveling? Are they going to help other people who have cancer? What are they going to do? You have to kind of know where you're going to go with that. And I said several months ago, like, I am going to like, just like Cheryl did, I'm going to manifest $25,000. And then that number appeared again, and it was like, okay, well, if we need to raise $25,000 for this business for the first round before like raising more. And I was like, there's that number again. But it's like, I don't know. I did this, it's on YouTube if anyone wants to find it, but I did an abundance transmission. I don't know when I did it, but it just I just channeled it. And it, like, I listened to it right before I had this big meeting with someone. And like, it was because I was starting to think about how I would actually, if I had millions of dollars, how I would actually spend it. Because of the questions posed in this transmission, that's why everything started to push forward, because I actually started to have a plan and a vision for how it would go and why. And not worry about the rules, like the typical rules of how I think business works, or how I think like this or that works. Like, just set aside everything you think, have a new experience, and don't take on other people's belief systems. And I'm very sensitive, and being a part of communities where there was a lack consciousness and a poverty consciousness, including exes, people that I've dated, and I absorbed their beliefs. And so it's just so important to like, really, like, just like you put on clothes every day, like, put on positive beliefs, and just have goals, and like have a plan and have a vision, so that, because it's so easy to forget. So that's my little story.
I think that's super important information too. I mean, it's really great. And I think, wholeheartedly, I completely understand and I completely know, like, in my heart of hearts, that you were able to have that experience based on, again, what we're talking about tonight, based on your beliefs. We can tie it into some of the other episodes that we had before too, about, experiencing the reality that we prefer. And Cheryl, when you were talking about manifesting that money, and when Angela, when you were talking about getting through that the emotion of lack by being steadfast with it, you really put into action. And what I mean by that is becoming an antenna, right? An antenna for our consciousness. So becoming like when we be it, we become a physical antenna to receive the version, right, of the whoa. So like Bashar says, there's three parts to it. Number one is you see it, or you become a precise mental antenna to receive the version of reality. Number two is you feel it, to become a precise emotional antenna to receive that version, right? And then to be it, which you are also doing, is to become a precise physical antenna to receive that version, right? So also keeping in mind, one of the other things that we've shared about in other episodes, everything is here and now, okay? And that, we already have everything that we desire. So keeping in mind that since we contain everything and all possible versions of our reality, they're all simultaneously existing and all real, and they're all here and now. Therefore, we already have the reality that we desire. We just can't perceive it, right? But we contain it. So we've already been given everything we could ever hope for or want, whether it's the rent or $14,000. It's just, it may not be visible or real to us yet, right? So keeping in mind, again, that creation exists here and now, outside time, outside in the one like eternal moment, the here now is what it's called. So everything you believe you might have or might get someday actually exists now, and you already have it. So depending on the frequencies that we're vibrating at, which depends on our beliefs, is what we accept as real. It will be the experience that we have in reality. So again, it's when I asked Cheryl if she had any doubt or if she knew that she was going to get this money somehow, and the same thing with you, Ansley, like you just knew it was going to happen because you were affirming it over and over when you were in the car before you got that text that you weren't going to give in. You were sort of like the idea when we pray for something, we never pray for something that we already have, right? Since it's already right there in front of us. So instead, we're actually
Right.
praying. So we're actually praying to be able to see what we already actually have.
Which is still a mentality of lack. What it is
Right.
to have the vibration of having, not the vibration of wanting, because that just creates more wanting.
Right. So when we have
And
the vibration that the frequency matches the vibration of which we desire, that's how we manifest our reality. Yes.
yeah, so I was going to say, when you're talking about having lack, it's kind of funny that even I don't know, even how that sounds in English, you have lack. So you're not lacking anything. You actually have an abundance of lack. You see what I'm saying? Because of your beliefs. So the universe is giving you, it's flooding you. You're always abundant. Even if you want to be abundant in lack, you got tons of lack, but you still have tons of something because you're always given what you need. And so that's a way to look at it. You're just creating that instead of creating the abundance with your...
Right. Yeah. So it's like when we match the frequency of what we desire, we'll see that it's always been right there, and it's just waiting for us to notice it and start enjoying it.
The universe
Right.
is
And
always giving you as much as you can possibly use it. So it's up to you to reach out and grab it. And
right. I mean, I just think that, I mean, I guess gratitude is, for me, it's easier to like see through this illusion that I don't have what I need, or an illusion that, oh, I'm sick, or like, oh, I have to lose weight, or I have a lack of love in my life, or just, I mean, it's such a battle. It really is such a battle, because and I love what you said, Trent, about we're here to like create more positive beliefs and less, and eliminate a lot of the negative ones. And it's like, it really is like a minute to minute practice of,
Right.
am I going to fall for this? And I do think that we all get triggered every day. Things trigger us. And like for me, if something's like out of order, messy, I'll get triggered into negativity, right? And I have to be aware of that, and I have to not let that trigger me. I have to learn to respond instead of react. And I used to be very triggered by bank account and money, and I kind of pushed through that, where I don't need to I could be a negative on my bank account and still be feeling powerful and badass.
Right.
Whereas before, it made me feel like I was gonna die.
Yeah.
If all of a sudden I was in negative, I was like, I am going to die. I am drowning out in the ocean. Like, I'm going to go under. It was like the worst feeling. I mean, even at one point, I was between jobs, and I had savings, but I was locked in a state of trauma to the point where a parking guy gave me a ticket, even though I was waiting in my car, so that I could wait with the car and then get out of the car at 6 p.m. And he gave me a ticket anyway, even though I was in the car. And I freaked out, because I felt so mesmerized by lack. And it was just too much to have someone put a ticket on my car when I was already in financial fear. And so it's so ironic that I had so much more of a cushion then than I do now. Yet I responded as if I was going to die, like then versus now, where that's something like that would definitely not really trigger me. So I think it is too about like looking at our triggers, and I'm trying to clean up my triggers, like even with people too, where people might provoke me. They might seem like they're racist, or they're misogynist, or they're sexist, or biased, or prejudiced, or they don't think I'm good enough, or whatever it is. What was that?
Check the email.
Check the email.
Yeah, remember last time
What?
you were asking someone for information, and they responded to you by saying check the email, and you were
Oh,
like,
yeah.
oh no. That's all.
Right, like that. But that was, see, that's the thing, is I don't know if you guys relate to this, but people are only when we communicate verbally or with text messages, that's like such a small percentage of the communication that's really going on.
Yeah.
So I received a communication by more than that message. I was able to feel the energy sent behind it. And I know that sounds out there, but yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like I can usually feel and read the energy behind a communication, not just like the text, but yes, like it, yes, check the email. That's a kind of a joke from our last podcast, if anyone wants to listen to it. But when that happens, when I perceive that someone is giving me, like they're putting their beliefs on me, like, oh, you're a woman, so da da da, or you look like this way, so I'm gonna think this about you or treat you this way. I'm getting better at not getting triggered by that and letting that make me go down in get negative and get angry, because then it's like I've got to stay up and stay in joy. And usually when I stay in joy, their belief system will change. So occasionally I'll call them out, but I'm noticing that just kind of stepping away and not seeing that they're for lack of a better word, they're good, even though the evidence is, and the feelings and the vibes or the words or the glare or the look or whatever they're doing, even though despite the evidence, it's like, no, they are good, they are full of love, and then showing up that way, and then they actually change, sometimes, often instantaneously.
Right. So how about sometimes this is really interesting. When we have a belief, right, we acknowledge it, and sometimes we might feel like we're not in control of it. Now, let me say, this is a weird episode that happened. It's similar to you guys. This was about a year ago. It was really, really interesting. Like I said before, I have a lot of income, right, and I have a lot of outgo. So one of these days, this was like about a year ago or so, I'm in the shower and I'm just doing my math, like all the bills that I have, because I just paid a bunch of bills, and I'm like, I took a look at my bank statement, and I'm like, okay, so this is going out, this is going out, this is coming in, this is coming in, and I brought myself to zero. I ended up having $0. I had like a, like a couple $1,000, right? But it was all going somewhere, and then I had a couple other $100 that was coming in, from other areas, and they were also going to be spent somewhere else. But I had no money for groceries. And I'm in the shower, and I'm thinking like, oh my God, I have no money for groceries. And my thought or my feeling was so freaking excited. I was like, oh my God, yes. Like, this is so cool, because I'm so excited to see how this money is going to show up for me. Just like I was so delighted. I feel like I remember how I feel so much in that moment. I felt like there were like sparks, like,
That's awesome. That's
I
cool.
was smiling and laughing, and I was in the shower, and I was like, this is so neat. Like, how is this going to come? Like, what is going to happen here? I'm so excited to see how this money is just going to show up. And within like moments, I got out of the shower and I went back to my phone after I got dressed and stuff. And somebody that I was coaching made a purchase, and I got a kickback, and the money was deposited right into my account, and boom, a couple $100. And I was like, that's cool. Wow. So now, in the other way,
Awesome.
a couple of weeks, yeah, right. That's like pretty sweet. A couple of weeks later, and I was totally convinced that's what it was. I was like, it was my vibration. It was because I was excited, because I was living in that. I was matching that frequency. I was matching the vibration that I was abundant. Things were going to show up for me. Everything was going to be, just fine. And I'm not drowning, even though I just, So it happened again. And the weird thought that was happening was, I had all this outgo and I had a certain amount of income and I was back at zero. I was like, oh, now I have no money for groceries. And my thought was different. It was, wow, what are the chances that money is going to show up again? Not very likely. And I was just so down and out. And then I'm like, wait a second, like I gotta be, I gotta, transmute this into, what I prefer. I gotta look at it from another perspective, and I gotta get excited about the money showing up, because it always does. And I couldn't get it. I couldn't feel it anymore. And I did a meditation. And I'm like, go back to, like, let me feel the excitement. Let me understand and have total faith that things are just gonna, happen for me, because I believe they are. I'm gonna match that frequency. I'm gonna experience that, version, of myself, that version of reality. And for some reason, even though I had that acknowledgement, right, I still wasn't able to do it, to feel like that again. And it sucked. I was like, wow, like, why am I not able to feel that way? So I had to like really like, and I'm drawing a blank now to like what happened that day, but I think like,
How did you end up getting the money?
eventually, I think I don't know, just
Did you ask somebody?
I don't know if I asked somebody. I think I just I don't know what I did.
Could you have asked somebody?
Um, I suppose I didn't think of it. I didn't think of asking anybody. I think I was just uncomfortable for a day until money showed up, because I knew it was going to come up eventually, but it wasn't going to be there in time. And I was like, I was stressed out about having $0 in the bank. And I think, if I remember correctly, I probably just I didn't go shopping that day. I just ate what I had, I think.
Well,
Or
did you have any food at anybody's house or anything like that?
no, I don't think I did at that time.
No.
But I mean, I lived, I managed to get past, but it wasn't a glorious, like,
Well, I guess my point is that one of the things that Bashar also talks about is that you always have what you need. And so we don't need to go into fear so quickly when we did have a cushion. We just have a negative belief that says we can't use that avenue, whether it be call a relative or a friend and say, can I borrow $50? Why do you feel uncomfortable to do that? It's a negative belief. So really you had that, because any friend, like I know me, I'd be like, you don't have any food? Well, here, let me throw some into your PayPal or whatever. It's no big deal. Absolutely. You had that abundance if you knew me then. So you see what I mean? That we will cut off forms of abundance.
Right.
Negative beliefs.
Yeah, so I was abundant, and I just chose to believe I wasn't. But I think the idea, what I'm conveying, is like I was able to acknowledge that I wasn't feeling abundant, and I tried to, but trying isn't doing. But I don't know. It was just a weird circumstance. I mean, even though, but looking back on it, in retrospect, and not just looking back on it now, looking back on it, back then, I was able to see that like it was still a positive thing, because it reinforced my core beliefs anyway. It reinforced the beliefs that our beliefs dictate how we experience our reality. Yes.
Yeah, and we oftentimes will get the reverberation of our negative beliefs, like even the core negative belief. Even when you begin to let go of it, you're still going to manifest accordingly a couple times, but it's about how you respond to that. So it's kind of a test, because you could just go right back into negativity. It could trigger you there, and then you keep it locked in, or you can see it and choose to react differently. So I guess at that place where you see it and choose to react differently,
Right.
like that's one of the stages of letting it go. And yeah, so it's really, it's belief versus knowing the truth, that we always have what we need, and we're always going down the path of least resistance, and the universe supports us, and we're completely worthy just because we exist.
Yeah, I think it's like a really,
Whoa.
it is about
Ansley.
knowing.
Yes. So awesome. Am I shifting through parallel reality? Did I just get abducted?
That was wild.
Anthony, are you there?
My voice is all distorted or something.
You gotta go back and
Yes.
that's staying.
Leave it in.
Yeah.
It was an out of body experience. That was,
So say what you just said again, Nancy.
yeah. I'm gonna mute myself.
I guess now I forget, but just something about like it is about knowing, and I think it's important. I know for me, I used to struggle with the whole thing of like, oh, well, I created this and it's my beliefs and it's my bad beliefs and that's why this is happening. And especially if you're in some sort of a crisis, like a financial thing or whatever it is, I think it's important to, it's not just your beliefs, because sometimes you can start to feel like, oh, I'm bad, I didn't do it right, I'm not thinking right, I created this, I'm doing something wrong. You can start to beat yourself up, and sometimes there's that kind of spiritual shaming that goes on where people will, you know, these are your beliefs. And I know Bashar is always really good at handling that very delicately with people, telling them what they need to hear, but he does it in a really just very, it's like almost like an art form, an art of communication, of helping them kind of he's a bridge from one belief to another. And all I'm saying is, no, a lot of these beliefs, they aren't ours. They're world beliefs. They're latent subconscious beliefs. They can get absorbed into your consciousness so many different ways. And so yeah, I just wanted to kind of talk about that pitfall.
Yeah, they're borrowed from
Mhm.
parents, culture, society, your peers, your teachers, those generations before us, pass them down to the children. So knowing that you're being a thief, a belief thief, and that you can give those beliefs back, because that's not the truth. The truth is that we have everything that we need. We're totally worthy and all that, and we're abundant, and everything is meaningless without our definition of it. So yeah.
Yes.
So what beliefs are you all working on for this week?
All of them. No, I don't know. I think like I said before, like I'm really in a stage now where I have to practice what I preach and really just maintain my positive vibration and understand that the things that I think are happening, that I don't prefer, a couple of things about them. They're not a big deal. And perhaps that there's a way that those things that I don't prefer are actually leading me to what I do prefer, but I don't see it yet. I don't notice it yet. Or that there's a way that, I'm learning, if anything, I'm just learning more about myself. I'm learning more about what I do believe. And what I'm talking about is, lack. I'm talking about lack but my belief in lack, and a lot of times it's belief in, you know, unworthiness. But this week it was lack, and most of the time I'm not struggling, you know, in those areas at all. But like I said before, um, sometimes we feel like we're being tested. So I don't know.
Yeah, I sort of had an interesting thing. I think that I'm from LA, and being a woman and all, there's always been so much pressure to be attractive, right? I think all women feel that pressure. And I know men feel it too, but I think men historically have been able to get their worth in more than just their physical appearance. They've been able to get it professionally or just in other ways. And women, obviously, there's more and more equality that I'm seeing. So, I mean, I got a lot of my worth from school and academics and doing well in school and just business and career and a lot of that stuff. But there was always that underlying pressure of like being attractive enough and being good enough, and just feeling like so many men, even friends, were trying to reduce my worth to my who I am in the 3D. I even know people that are models, even supermodels, that feel very irritated as well, even though in the 3D people are very generally satisfied. They're like, no, I'm way more than this body. Like I'm intelligent, I am creative, I'm all these other things. Like, please don't limit me, please don't use me, please don't exploit me. And so I think all types of people feel that kind of pressure and that pushback. And so I don't know, I had a very interesting conversation with a few people, and we all kind of remembered just childhood and just being teenagers and having to overcome acne, and just how much damage that like did to just locking us in like self-esteem based on skin or image or whatever it was. And yeah, so that has been, there's certain beliefs that it's like they're very embedded in the collective, so they can be harder to get free of. So that, I think that's a big one for women. And then there's just a lot around kids and just co-parenting and stuff like that that I'm trying to transmute as well. And yeah, so I feel very focused, like, okay, like we can accomplish a lot this week. There's so many areas of belief to kind of work through.
Yeah,
And how
that
to
one
do
that you
that.
talked about is a really big one. The one that our worth is determined by like people, like outward beauty and stuff like that. So I used to have that. And I think I have actually, I fought like a wave of that recently, which means I never really was free of it, even though I thought I was. Like there was years at a time that I never really even looked at myself. Like somebody pointed out to me that I was like a little bit chubby during this time frame, and I had no recollection because I didn't even look at my own self, my own body, didn't fix my hair, didn't dress anyway. I was really focused in like spirituality or whatever. Anyways, so recently I realized that when I went to look at my worth, it was according to my beauty. And so I'm 35, and even though I look 25 and I'm attractive, I still will see myself as unattractive because I don't look like what I used to look like or whatever. And notice that I still have that negative belief, and my mom has it real bad too. She used to say, I would rather die than get old. So I know her. I mean, she repeated it so much. I remember the thought I would have after she said that. I would have a thought like no, it'll be fun to be a granny. Like I can't wait. But alas, at this stage in my life, having really thought that I was above all that, you know. Here I am fighting it again. I guess not fighting, but being faced with this challenge to overcome. And so, you know what? I just very, very recently feel that relax. So I don't really feel that coming and hitting me again and again and again. You know, I was also having a negative belief, sort of like worried about my health, and you know what I mean? Like, even the finances one, I don't know, I feel okay right now.
Mm.
Yeah.
Thanks so much for your honesty. That's awesome.
Mm-hmm. You're welcome.
Yeah, just do your thing.
Yeah, I mean, and it's such a slippery slope too with this stuff, because I mean, I'm a huge fan of like honesty. Like, I do believe that honesty is spiritual power, and I think that it's important to have dialogues between, you know, people that wouldn't normally mix, or have conversations about things that are people don't necessarily want to talk about. And sometimes it feels like, oh, but my vibration's going to be lowered if I confront these issues. But I think that it's a really fine line to walk, and I've spent years trying to figure out the balance of all that. But at the end of the day, I think that just being honest is what I would defer to, even if it's going to lower my vibration. Even if I'm wrong, like, you know, like you guys, yeah, even if it turns out I'm wrong, that's okay. I'd rather be wrong than not have the unseen uncovered, if that makes any sense.
No, I hear you. But what do you mean, though? Rather be wrong about a belief in what?
Well, I guess I could try to give an example. Like you know, do you all ever have a situation where you sort of want to call someone out, and you sort of want to confront someone, um but you don't want to rock the boat, and you maybe don't want to lower your vibration. You want to keep you want there to be joy and harmony, you know,
That's
kind of
what I
like
mean.
how Cheryl just she was she
Here we go again.
Yeah.
What is it doing?
Oh my God.
Facebook is funny. Zoom. Whoa.
yeah.
Hello, Ansley.
Ansley.
Hi.
Hi. Hi. We
That
couldn't
was
hear you.
so weird.
Yeah, that's really weird. You sounded like a video game, but like a really
Wow.
like one of the first video games. You guys are
Wow. This keeps happening only to me.
Yeah, that's so weird. Yeah, yeah, but what you were saying, Ansley, I guess, you know, picking and choosing our battles, seeing is it relevant, is it useful to say anything, or like is I don't know. Does that make any sense, or is it like relevant to
And
say?
I mean, it really does come back into beliefs, and um at the end of the day too, because like sometimes we have to expose our belief system to people so that we can like have it dissolved and dismantled. But that is the death to the ego. to really be honest to someone and expose your belief system to them, and maybe they don't have the same belief system, or maybe they don't understand what you're talking about, and maybe it will lower your vibration temporarily to say, hey, this is what I believe that you don't like me, or you know, whatever it is that you're confronting. And but I do think it is worth it, and it's something I'm trying to do more of, but it is very polarizing. It could, like, when you're honest, it could go either way. It could bring you closer to a person, or it could cause a sort of a separation or a split or a break.
I guess. I mean, I'm sort of not really like following now. Like, what do you mean by, like, you mentioned like calling someone out? I don't quite follow like what you mean. Like, I don't know. I feel like if someone is saying something or behaving in a way that I don't resonate with, I kind of just I don't know. I don't feel like obligated. 'Cause, like, I need to like check my motives, I guess.
So okay, so yeah, so if would you just avoid that person, or would you like would you call them out?
I don't know. Well, I mean, I need like an example. Like,
I know that I don't really call people out on stuff. I try to keep the peace as much as possible. Like at work, you know what I notice is that at work everybody sort of gets away with something. Not everybody gets away with the same thing. Like if I were to do the same thing that Jasmine gets away with, eating food from the line all the time, sometimes she'll just take stuff that she thinks might be old, but it actually needed to go out to a table and they have to remake it. And they're like angry. They're like, who did this? And then when we like nod over to Jasmine, they're like, oh, okay, I'll just remake it. You know what I mean? Or if Melinda's late, if anybody else is late, it's a freaking problem. But it's fine if she's late. It's so weird. I'm allowed to talk shit to the cooks. Not many people can do that. But anyways, I guess, you know, it's better than to not call certain people out for some things that they get away with, you know, like having to do their work, or it's better to just do it. That's just the way I look at it. And yeah, we should be able, and there's a couple people that I really treasure their friendship. And even if there is something that they do, you know, no, I would rather not say anything and keep it how it is. That's just me, you know, the world that we're living in right now. There's a lot of challenges that everybody's facing, and I don't know. We shouldn't need to be babied, but I don't like being told stuff that I'm doing wrong. It doesn't feel good.
yeah, I don't know. I mean, I feel like if it doesn't like have anything to do with me, I kind of like, I mean, easily to just like let it go.
Yeah, I started telling people I'm just not a good server. Whenever they go to complain about me forgetting something, I'm like, you know, you're gonna have to deal with the fact that I'm not as good as you at this. And they just kind of go, oh, like there's nothing else they could say. I say I'm trying my best. I didn't do it intentionally, but it's gonna keep happening because I can't really remember things very easily. And they just stop because they're like, well.
That's interesting. It's kind of an interesting, that's really interesting, because it really, so many people in the workplace, they're in their ego, and you're like, here, take my ego. You're better at this than I am. I've done that to people too, and it's amazing. It does really bring a lot of peace. It really can diffuse a situation. Like, I had to tell a family member who was just being really trying to be competitive with me. I'm like, okay, you're better than me. You beat me. You're better than me. Even though that's not how my mind works, I realized that was what I had to say to this person to get them. Like, sometimes you have to speak to people in their language, and it can work to be someone that doesn't have an ego in a world where people are constantly trying to maintain their egos.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and I like to validate everybody there. If you can validate something good about everybody that you have to work with, it makes things run so much smoother. And they actually will become that person. Like, you'll see those sides of them. This is just my own personal thing. If somebody's like, and I actually have heard Bashar say this, that you'll be dealing with different versions of them. You actually won't see that. So they won't become that version of themselves around you anymore once you stop like manifesting that. It's not that you won't, it's not necessarily that you won't see them. You just won't see that. They won't be in that mood when they're around you or whatever.
When you do, how do you do that? Get them to not be in that way around you.
Stop cycling the negative beliefs with them.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Learn what it is that you got to learn from them. What they were reflecting to you is something that, negative that you're holding within yourself. So figure out what that is and acknowledge them, actually appreciate them for the role that they played, and see that they're just your own projection, your own even a version of yourself that had been like that or whatever, you know what I mean? And see them for the power that they must be powerful if they're able to cycle this with me. Thank them.
Nice.
That's pretty cool. There's also the idea too, like oftentimes when we come across somebody who's, we get bad vibes from them, right? And we often like exclaim that, oh, I'm picking up a bad vibe, or I'm taking on their negative beliefs or something. But we know now that what it really means is we're matching those beliefs, right? We're matching those vibrations. So we're coming across somebody who's, pretentious or anxious or stressed or a prick. Maybe there's a chance that we can stay strong with our positive vibration or high vibration, and maybe they'll match ours, right? So that will be a way that we sort of lift up others around us, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Yep.
I mean, when there's other people that, like, for instance, they don't social media. If someone is, I don't know, bashing Trump or whatever, right? I choose to not, engage. I mean, those aren't my beliefs, but I have to understand I'm not going to try to convince someone to see things my way. And I acknowledge that those are just their beliefs and those are their opinions.
Yeah.
And they're to believe whatever the hell it is they want. And if it's not what I believe, then that's fine. I acknowledge that and I respect that they have those beliefs, and especially if they're different from mine.
My uncle was like, pretty much telling me, like, come on, why don't you ever want to talk about politics? And I'm like, not everybody's interested in the same thing. Like, I'm not inspired to continue talking about it because I have no further thoughts about that because I'm not focused there and I don't care. And he keeps saying stuff about Trump or whatever. And he looks at me like and waits. And now he just kind of, he doesn't do it anymore. So.
Because you're not giving him the satisfaction. So he's like losing interest. And then I guess in turn that's now the version of him you're getting. The one where he doesn't talk about it.
Well, yeah, it doesn't do any good. For me to respond in that conversation is gonna like breed more of the conversation. And it's like, now we're talking about this for like 15 minutes straight. And I can't have that. So I just don't.
I think for me too, like when I make a decision to interact, with someone, again, on like social media too, like if someone is, posting something or saying something that I don't really choose to believe on, I take a look at what my motives are, what they would be, but for the response that I would make. So for example, there's a video that circulates around every once in a while of these like goth kids who are like in this park and they're listening to their music and they're dancing around, and a lot of times people, post that video and everyone bashes them, because they're different, or they're freaks, or they're retarded, or kids are just stupid, and they have like all these like lame remarks. And that is one particular video where I suppose now looking back on it, I do chime in, but I say, that those kids are free from like judgment, and they're just being themselves. And I say that we can all learn from people just like that. And this was something that we talked about in another one of our episodes, especially when even that young boy who does makeup, and he like does makeup on himself, and he has like a time lapse where he makes himself look like a woman. And people are like, "Oh, this is crazy. The generations are so messed up, and the kids are so mixed up, and blah 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 blah, and no way my kid's gonna do that," type of thing. And I think it's awesome. So I always respond, I chime in, and I go, "Listen, like, this kid's acting on his passion. He's doing what makes him happy, and he's being himself. It's better than what you're doing. Like, you're trying to keep him down. Like, let him do what makes him happy." And I'm looking at these other people, and it's like, fully grown men, like states and states and states away from wherever this was happening or wherever the video was made. And I'm like, what do you care if some young kid is putting on makeup? Like, what's the big deal? But I think those are the only times where I'm like feeling obligated to chime in, when it's not really like, directed at me. But I feel like when I justify it, by posting something or commenting something like that, it's because in my mind, I choose to believe that I'm sort of like trying to sort of raise awareness of people's beliefs about themselves and what they're saying and what they're doing. I feel like I feel like I'm doing, I don't know, a courtesy, like raising the collective, raising the vibration, and getting people to be aware of themselves.
I mean, I think that people tend to, when they get angry or they get judgmental, it's because they have fear, because they're not used to something, they don't understand something, they don't understand someone. And that's what I love about Bashar, is he talks about the triad, and he talks about it's a triad. So there's get neutral about everything. So I'm pretty neutral about the kid with the makeup. I'm neutral about it. And like there's other things and topics that I'm not neutral about. I have a lot of charge to it, either positive charge or negative charge to it. And so I love that model of like, let me get neutral about everything. And it really is in alignment with one of my passions, which is like screenwriting and directing, because the whole point of a movie is you're looking at something from many different perspectives. You always have a protagonist, yes, but there's all these different characters, so you experience a story from multiple angles and multiple perspectives. And I just, it's nice to try to understand where everyone is coming from, no matter where they're coming from. And we've talked about disclosures and ETs on this show, and that kind of thing. And I'm sure that some people are going to be really freaked out about ETs.
Right.
And some people see ETs, and I've heard them go on the Bashar conference, and they've said they had that a gray appeared to them in a dream, and they beat the gray, and then they felt kind of bad, but they were so afraid when they saw the gray that they beat the gray to death. So that's kind of what we're up against. That's why there's been so many wars, is because people fear people that are different than they are, or that have different beliefs than they do. So it's so valuable to just get neutral about
totally.
every topic out there. because there's even, no matter what it is, there's always a neutral ground. There's negative aspects about every topic, there's positive aspects about every topic, and there's a way to get to the middle.
I think for me that also is like a clear like reflection of detaching from ego, because I feel like our ego is what wants us to project. It wants us to feel certain ways. It wants us to be in control. It wants this and it wants that. So like you said, when we're neutral, we're sort of living in goodness in a way, like living in allowance of other things and to be what they are, living in acceptance. And like we talked about relationships, we came to the understanding that's what love is, acceptance of letting the other be what it is fully, right? So when people are projecting their own beliefs, whether it's fear or I guess resentment or anger, then it's really just a belief they have about themselves. But I remember that, I think that that one transmission with Bashar, where like one of the people said that they had a dream that they were approached by a gray, and they got into like an altercation and they felt really bad. It's pretty wild.
Yeah. And so, yeah, I think that, I think about that little boy, and people are just like, in a way, he's like an alien to some people. Like, what is he doing? Why would he do that? Why would his parents let him do that?
Mm-hmm.
And it's because it's so removed from their belief system that it's shocking.
Right.
And when people get angry at us, it's because we are shattering their belief system in some
Mm-hmm.
way. And but they are growing. They are they are expanding their belief system,
Yeah.
but it can be messy. They might cry, they might get angry,
Right.
they might laugh.
Mm-hmm.
Those are three common things that people
Right.
do when their beliefs are being challenged.
Right. And I guess it also the projection part of it too, where some people might view that little boy, and the subconscious will interpret as that person's being themselves, acting as themselves, and maybe someone else is feeling like they can't act like themselves, so they project with anger and projection, because it's
Right. Or there's an unhealed aspect of them that, like, they don't even know. Like, he's bringing up some kind of an unhealed aspect of them. Like, who knows? But, like, okay, this little boy, he has parents that let him make decisions. He's in touch with his feminine side. And he's maybe, I don't even know. I know exactly which boy you're talking about. He's pretty famous, but I don't even know, like, where I don't know much about where, like, if he's, like, I don't know what his sexuality is, like, if it's fluid or whatever it is, but let's just say that's the case. I don't know, but maybe, yeah, who knows what it could bring up for people. So yeah, they're just kind of getting angry because sometimes people think that it's something they can't be free, or this is a threat to them, or this is there's a whole myriad of things. But I think it's important too to understand, like, I don't know, I do believe that we are progressing. Like, I heard something just recently that there's less violence on the earth than any other time in history. There's
right.
less violence. So wow, we're doing something right.
Right.
We are becoming more civilized, kind, compassionate, and there's less brutality, for sure, less cruelty and brutality. So that's pretty encouraging. Thank God.
I like that. That's a really good point.
Yeah, I love that. I love that.
Yeah, It's better that people are argue. I mean, even on Facebook, I see less people arguing on Facebook than I used to.
Yeah. Yeah, my Facebook is pretty right on recently. I think a lot of times, Facebook is sort of like the universe in a weird way, where
Yeah,
we
definitely.
get back what we put in. So I mean, Facebook only shows us what it thinks it wants. It shows us what it thinks it wants that we want to see, right? So we can tailor our Facebook to be totally awesome. And I know there are some people who are like, "Oh, I gave up on Facebook. There's just too much drama." And I'm like, you can choose like your friends on Facebook, just like in real life. You can choose what you see and what you don't see, and it all starts with what you post. If you post negative, things of like animal cruelty or starvation, or I'm like, that's what Facebook's gonna show you. It's gonna think that's what you're interested in. So for me, my Facebook, just like you, Ansley, that's full of like really neat, like uplifting, spiritual fitness stuff. Like Facebook's cool, man. Mine's great. But every once in a while I scroll down and there's something I'm like, oh, I don't like that. So I just click, there's a button that you click. You said you don't want to see it. You do that a couple times. And then when you scroll down Facebook, it's cool stuff. Kind of like the universe. Get back what you put in.
Totally.
Yes.
Especially when now the phones, like, they listen, like, the phones listen to everything I say, and then it'll like give me things on my Facebook and Instagram that have to do with things that we've talked about, like on this call, because I'm doing this call on my phone. So
Yeah.
it's more of a vibrational match than even before.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's kind of cool, but I mean, I can understand how it might be kind of freaky, but I choose to interpret it as a way that it's neat
Yeah,
and
it doesn't
easy.
bother me.
And
I'm not like worried about it, but it's just funny. That's my experience with it too. Like, if even if I'm not talking on the phone or to a person, it's almost like it's already connected with my mind. Like, I could look at the social media and get a glimpse into my vibration or my state of mind in that moment.
yeah, totally.
It's like a mirror.
Yeah, right. So there's a story of, I guess, there's cameras in grocery stores, and there was one particular story of the camera systems they have in Target, where there was like a young woman, she was going into Target, and she was looking at infant formula and like bassinets and cribs, right? She was on camera looking at that stuff, and that was all sent to a server, and that was all like computed and processed, and then something else was generated, and then she received coupons in the mail for like baby formula, right? And then like a few more interactions like that happened, like cameras caught her and things she was looking at and happened, and then I guess in the mail, like her, like this young woman, this young girl, like her father got like all these like notifications of deals on strollers and baby clothes and stuff like that, and he was like, what is going on here? And ultimately I guess the part of that story was that like Target knew that this girl was pregnant before her father did. And it's like kind of wild.
Wow. Oh my
People
gosh.
might be threatened by that, but like, oh, that's too much surveillance. Oh, they're watching everything we do. But I mean, I understand that, but I'm choosing to like think that it's just marketing. If I'm in the industry, that'll be so sweet. Like I'm viewing it from like a neutral standpoint, kind of where putting my perspective in the shoes of the store owner. Where like, hey, it would be neat if I had a way to, understand what my customers are coming in and looking at, so I can send them coupons for items that they might want, so they would come back and make a purchase. I, I think it's kind of cool.
Totally. Right. And I mean, I love that we're talking about this, because I know that I have had I have had to earn my like ease and comfort in the world as it is now. I've had to like be terrified. I have had to face a lot of my beliefs, like a lot of my fears and about change and surveillance and chemtrails and this and that. And just, I think everyone who emerges into the more spiritual thought and mindset, they have, like, a lot of us have to go through staring down our fears and watching them be externalized and be afraid of them, but then kind of rise above it and get more neutral and be like, hey, maybe the best is working out for me and for everyone else. Because when you declare that, no matter how big of a topic it is, it could be the government, it could be the president, it could be UFOs, it could be chemtrails, it could be vaccines, like all these controversial topics, the 911 hoax, you know, like just all these different conspiracy topics that seem like this impending doom. But it's like, no, like, we are in control. Like, we create our reality, period. Like, if, like, same with all this stuff like that you're saying, that if you're neutral about the surveillance and I've gotten to the point where I've had to be too. I can't live in fear. All fear is bad fear. The ego wants you to think, oh, you're being intelligent and you're being wise and you're being 10 steps ahead of the game. But really, it's, at the end of the day, it's just fear. And fear is not something I want to live with. I want to walk in love and faith and understanding and hope and all that good stuff, and not positive beliefs, and not have fears, because hey, I'm a powerful manifestor. I'll manifest. I'll end up in a parallel reality that I don't want to be in.
Yeah,
Real fast.
Yeah, we're manifesting every single thing about our reality right now.
Yes.
And that's all based on our belief.
Yeah, and that's what but Cheryl was saying, is that we're going to manifest different versions of people that we know in our lives, depending on if we keep cycling through the beliefs. So it's like, and that's been my experience. I mean, I just had my car, like, it was crazy. Like, I have a friend who's very Christian, and all she was doing is talking about, like, being under attack and, like, having nightmares, right? And then immediately my car, like, won't start. And I know it's because I indulged in that kind of that nightmares. Like, I indulged in it. Like, I believed it for a second, and and then my car wouldn't start. I was like, okay. So I had to call AAA, and there was a lot of pushback. Like, the guy was like, oh, I can't fix this, and we got to tow it. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And, like, he was just being kind of, like, not that nice. And he's like, where's your daughter? Like, she has to be here. It's under her name. And I'm like, she's coming. She'll be here soon. And it was just very disharmonious. And then I just was like, okay, like, and I just kind of walked away, and I'm like, no, this guy's a child. Like, this guy's a child of the universe. He's full of love. And, like, I go and I face him again, and I respected him, and I was like, you know, thank you so much. And I believed in him, even though he wasn't figuring out how to start my car. I had to have faith and believe in him and encourage him. Yeah. And thank him and honor him. And he completely changed. Whoa. And he got so healed. He figured it out because I held a space for him, and I gave him that kind of appreciation and encouragement and respect and honor. Wow. And he changed before my very eyes. We were in one parallel reality together, and then we were in another parallel reality together. And we didn't have to tow my car.
Dude, that is incredible. That's really neat. That's exactly like what I said before about having others match the frequency that we want to portray and experience.
Right. Right. They got to come up to us. We don't need to go down to them. Let them come up to us. Do not fly off your perch of sanity. And people will surprise you. I mean, they so want to be around someone who believes in them, believes in their health, believes in their wealth, believes in their potential, believes in their inner or outer beauty. They're starving for it. And so they will sense it from a mile away. I mean, my dogs sense it from a mile away. My kids sense it. And then other people too. Even people that I see all the time that I have a lot of like wreckage with. Like, they will rise to the occasion too. If I let go of my beliefs about them, they will rise to the occasion. And so I have to constantly practice, but it's amazing what can come about if we just really, just kind of hold a space for people and don't fall down, you know?
Right. Well, this was a great show.
Yeah, it was a nice long one with some Voldemort appearances, right? So thank you both, and
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Well, yeah, awesome. Thanks so much for letting me be a part of this too. It was pretty awesome.
all right. Good night.
Good
Yeah,
night, you guys.
We'll pick this up next time. We'll discuss what topic we'll do next, and also for our listeners, if you guys have any input, if you guys had any experience with manifesting things that you desired, have you ever had an experience where you were feeling excited and just completely understanding that things are going to work out in your favor, and then all of a sudden, poof, you find that they do? Or have you ever had an experience where the opposite, where you were feeling dread and you were feeling doubt, and then all of a sudden one negative thing happened after the other and things started to spiral out of control, and then we come to the realization it's our beliefs? Let us know in the comments if that's something you've experienced with, or also let us know in the comments too if there's a topic that you'd like to hear us discuss, or if you'd like to be a part of our show and maybe come on as a guest. All right, well, good night, guys, and I love you. I'll talk to you soon.
Much love.
Love you guys. Good night.
Good night.